Welcome back. In this lecture, we are going to understand how to test the scenarios where your flows are going to throw errors. For this scenario, I have modified my use case a little bit. So it is the same flow which you saw in earlier lectures. My flow is having HTTP listener, and once I get a request, choice router will route to the first route when query parameter ID is there. So in query parameters, we can pass the value of ID either as a string or a number. So in this flow, I have a number validator from validation module. Here I have configured this number validator to validate that this attributes.queryparams.id is a integer. If the ID is not integer, this will result, it will throw an error with error.messages id must be a number. Now in this main flow, I have handled this error using on error continue. And if you see, I have my first on error continue, which will be executed whenever error of type validation : invalid number is thrown. Here what I am doing, I am using transform message component and generating this as a payload. I am setting status as 400, error dot description. So whatever error is thrown by this is number validator, that message will be here. Okay, and let's assume that number is passed. We are calling another flow where we are trying to connect to database. What if there is a problem with database connectivity? Again, this will result in an error. It will propagate to the main flow, and in the main flow I'm handling it using on error continue, and this is mapped for db : connectivity. So here I'm using a transform message to write a message with status 500, and this is the message unable to connect to db. And in case of any other error, I have used on error propagate now. See here, for these two errors, invalid number and db connectivity, I am using on error continue. And here, in case of any other error, if you see here, I didn't give any type. That means for any other error, this is a on error propagate will be executed, where status will be 500 and the message is internal server error. This will be propagated. So that means HTTP listener will return error message, right? Not a success message. Whereas in two other cases, on error continue, the continue means it will continue as if nothing has happened, and HTTP listener will give success response. Let me test this flow with various scenarios. I am writing a functional test case in this case. Okay, I am doing end-to-end testing. My database is up. Let me open my services. Here I'll search for MySQL. MySQL service is running. That means my database is running. Now I'll give a request to this flow. First, by passing ID is equals to number. A happy scenario. Let us see. Let this application start. Yep, deployed. Now I'll give a request with existing ID. I got success response. If I pass ID as a string, let us say I'm getting 200 and status is 400, messages ID must be a number, because in case this is throwing an error, see the error is thrown by this is number validator, and here we are handling it, and its transform message is returning this JSON, same as whatever we got, and this is on error continue, so you can see the HTTP status also as 200. Okay, now this is one scenario. To simulate another error, I will stop my database. Okay, yes. Now I will pass ID as a number only. ID equals to 1. Let us see now. Database is down. Oh, I got 200. I got some linked hash map. Why is it so here? DB connectivity. Oh, this is as application slash Java. I'll make it as application slash JSON and save it. Let it get redeployed. We will see this. I saved it. It'll get redeployed. Yeah. It got redeployed. Okay, now let me give a request. I should get JSON response, whatever I wrote in the transformer. Fine. Now, I got it. If I get any other error other than DB connectivity or invalid, it will come to here and this is the message. So we know what is the status code for database and what is the status code, what is the payload in case if I pass wrong ID, ID which is not number. I have these two payloads. Now let us write test cases. So I have three scenarios now. Let us first see what I am doing. Even before I write my test cases, I know for what input what is the response expected. So what I did is even before I started writing Munit, I have created some DWL files under SRC test resources. Now I want to get product by ID. The scenario is get product by ID dot. I created one more subfolder invalid ID. So if I pass invalid ID, what are the attributes for event here? I am passing IDX string. So I'm going to set this DWL for event attributes. And suppose if I give ID as ABC, what is the response we should assert? Payload must equal to this one. Is it same as what is coming if I pass ID as a non-number? Yes. And similarly, I know if I pass valid ID, which is a number, but if there is DB connectivity error, the payload I want to assert is payload must equal to this one, status code 500, unable to connect to DB. The same thing. And in case of any error, the event attributes, let it be anything. In case of any other error, I want to assert that the payload must equal to this one. This is same as whatever I have set for this transform message, right? So I have written the DWL files with various uh, inputs and outputs. Now I'm going to generate test cases. So I'll right click on main flow. Let me stop this. I don't need to run when I'm running test cases. I stopped it. Now I'm going to generate blank text for this flow. And here, before this flow reference, I will write set unit, set event. Here in attributes, I want to configure to read from what? I'm writing a scenario for invalid ID. First point, I will rename my test case as get product by ID dash invalid ID. By seeing the name of this test case, we should understand. So here I'm going to set event for invalid ID. Attributes I'll select fx and I will use read URL and I'll pass class path colon slash slash. Folder name is get product ID, product by ID. Here, this is a folder name slash invalid ID slash event dash attributes dot dwl. So whatever is a dwl file I get. Okay. Then I want to use assertion. I will use assert expression. And here I want to load this file and execute this assert payload. So I will import what get product by ID colon the folder name is invalid ID colon assert underscore payload. So I imported it. Then I will write assert underscore payload colon underscore spelling mistake assert underscore payload colon control space. If I write main, here I will pass one object payload payload comma attributes colon attributes comma vars vars. So I call this function. Oh, there is an error here. What is it saying? Payload, sorry, payload colon. Yes. Now I wrote it. Let me test this. If we are testing a scenario for invalid ID, my set event is pointing to this event dash attributes.dwl where I have passed an invalid ID and we are asserting this one. So let me run this test case right now and check. This should succeed. Yes, you can see that this test case succeeded. You understood how easily we are able to write a test case once we have sample data and payload to be asserted. Now, I want to write one more case for testing this DB connectivity. Let us see some difference. I want to drag and drop an empty test again. And I'll copy paste this set event and flow reference. Copy, paste, again copy, paste. Okay. And also this assert expression also I'll copy paste. Now, sorry, I'll delete it. I have pasted at wrong place. I'll copy this and paste it here in validation. Okay. Now the test case name again I need to change. So what? This is get product by ID dash DB connectivity. So that if somebody says this test case name, they will understand, okay, we are testing DB connectivity. So now what I will do is in the set event, I will change the file name. Here it is get product by ID slash DB connectivity. slash the file name I'm following conventions, same file name. Done. Then in the assert expression, here instead of invalid ID, I will write DB connectivity. That's all. Now file name is same, assert underscore payload colon main. So I am asserting this whatever DWL. Now in this case, I want to simulate a database connectivity error. Even though our test case should never depend on the database, right? So I have to simulate or mock the behavior of database. So for that purpose, I will just drag and drop mock one. So when database connector is called, so first of all, I'll pick what component to mock. Here I want to mock get product. Inside get product by ID flow, I want to mock this. Okay, fine. Now what to return whenever the control goes to that component? I want to return type is what is the expected type for database connectivity? The type is DB colon connectivity. So I'll go here and mock the error. So it is returning an event with this error. So whenever control goes to the select component, it will actually return DB error, and then we are asserting this one. So we are asserting the expression whatever we wrote inside this package, assert payload. Now let us see. I will run this two suites, one suite which contain two cases. Both the tests should be successful. Yes, you can see both the tests are successful. Now, I want to write one more test case for any error. So here, in this case, for any error, I want you to understand that we are using on error propagate. Let us see first point. I will write a test case. I'll go here. I will drag and drop one more empty test. And here I will write my flow name as get product by ID dash any error. So I'm testing any error. I'll copy both set event and flow reference here, and also assert expression here, and now the event I want to point to the event dash attributes.dwl in this folder. Same any error. I will just change this inner folder name. This is same. Similarly, in the assert expression, here I will write any error. So this will point to assert underscore payload here. I wrote it. Now I need to somehow mock the database. Maybe let us assume that there is some problem in the query of the database. Then in such cases, the control will come here. It is not connectivity, right? So I want to mock database and let the database throw other error, any other error. So again, I will go to mock when, and then I will mock the same database component, select by ID. Okay. Then return. Now here I will use mule colon any. Okay. But then here I want you to understand whenever the main flow is called and if any error is thrown, the control will come to on error propagate. The transform message is executed, but as the error is propagated, the control will not even come to assert. The control will not come to assert because this flow reference is throwing an error. The main flow is throwing an error. Even the assert will not be executed. So in that case, what you can do is you have to wrap this inside try scope. Then in the error handling block, somehow you need to continue so that the assert expression will be executed. So here in error handling block, I will write, I'll drag and drop on error continue. So error will get propagated from here and this on error continue will execute. Now in this simply I will just write a logger, nothing much, inside on error continue. So the exception will be thrown here, this will be executed. Now the control will go to assert and this assertion will be executed. So remember, whenever you want to write assertions for a flow where error is propagated, make sure that in your test case, whenever you're calling that flow, you wrap that inside a try scope and write on error continue so that the assert expressions will be executed and you can assert whatever you are expecting. This is the care to be taken when you are writing test cases for a scenario where errors will be propagated. Okay, so if I run now, let us see, all the test cases will be successful. Okay, let us wait. So here there will be 3 test cases. They all should be green in some time. Yes, you can see all are succeeded. Okay, so now in this case you understood how to write test cases for error scenarios and especially whenever you want to write assertions. And if the error is propagated, remember to wrap this for reference in a try scope and use on error continue so that the control will come to the validation part. Then you can write whatever assertions you want. That's all. You understood how to handle error scenarios. In the next lecture, I will show you how to use Munit recorder to generate the test cases automatically. Okay, see you in next video.